Hello and welcome. In his second State of the Nation address to Parliament today, President John Mahama has assured Ghanaians of better days ahead in spite of the current socio-economic challenges facing the country today. He also announced the introduction of free SHS by 2015/2016 academic year for day students. And according to his government plan to progressively introduce free SHS in the country. An interesting twist that is raising eyebrows. He touched on many other issues from infrastructure, social intervention programs, agriculture, social security, health, and others. A case of deja vu, a recycle of 2013, or perhaps a novelty. Yesterday on the program was a precursor from think tank ISODEC and an independent candidate, Kwesi Amwafu-Yeboah. Tonight we delve into academia and policy analysis with two doctors, Dr. Theophilus Richardson and an economic policy analyst, Dr. Godwin Echi Sikanku, is a lecturer at the Communications School and Global Politics for the School of Communication in University of Ghana. We will discuss politics of the same story tomorrow with politicians, and they will bring you also different angles, and you can discern for yourself what the real state of the nation is. The state of the nation, Ejabo, finally arrived today, and the president came to the House of Parliament in his all glamour, drummings, contemporary culture, which was brought to us by Kwame Nkrumah, who says we shouldn't lose our culture, so at every event, even if there's the military, add the culture so we don't lose it. And so that will happen today, and he gave us the address. However, the two houses were sharply divided. The other half says it's a brilliant thing, the other says no. But with me in the studio today to just look at it from its plain and simple and in-depth analysis is, to my extreme left, Dr. Godwin Echi Sikanku, School of Communication Studies, and to my immediate left, Dr. Theophilus Richardson, Economic Policy Analyst. True-blooded economist, if I may say. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Nana.
And Echi, I'll start with you, Doc. First, just our impressions on the address.
Well, I think it's great. It's nice that the president comes and accounts to us at a certain point in time. He did his job well. And I think across a majority or the great swath of Ghanaians, we would all agree that the president is a pretty good communicator. He was good on the delivery. He's a good orator. Let's give it to him. Mm-hmm. And he did employ humor to very good effect in his speech. Was it an entertaining speech? Yes, it was. Was it educative? Perhaps informative to an extent. Was it persuasive? Absolutely not. At the end of the day, what Ghanaians were looking for was a president who would come there and tell them what the true state of the nation was vis-a-vis what the state of the nation was last year. We would all agree that we are going through a very difficult time, and some people have said we are actually in a period of crisis. We know what is happening with the economy. We know what is happening with increase in fuel prices and food shortage, increase in food prices and all those sort of things. And I think that for the president to come in and say that the fundamentals of the economy are still solid, I think he probably got it wrong over there. It probably shows that he's out of touch, and he did not convince Ghanaians that he was actually on the ground and in charge. I mean, he was probably on the ground and has a very good view of what is going on, because I think most Ghanaians would disagree that the fundamentals of the economy are wrong. I mean, what is right about the fundamentals of the economy if there are no jobs? What is right about the fundamentals of the economy if prices are skyrocketing, multiple, triple increase of fuel prices? I mean, transportation prices are skyrocketing, and the ordinary Ghanaian is indeed feeling the pinch, and of all of this. We are going through a period of crisis, and I think that what the people needed was to hear a president who would reassure them that, yes, I feel your pain, yes, I understand what is going on, actually admit certain things, and probably call for a national and a grand national participation in our affairs. At the end of the day, I think this was status quo. I think was average. There was no groundbreaking, boundary-breaking, transformational change that would change the social fabric and re-engineer our society in a way that would give hope to Ghanaians, in a way that would show that things are different. After all, that is why we elected him over the other person, because we believed that he would make a very fundamental and transformational change in our lives. I don't think that this address spoke to that.
Good. Let me bring Dr. Richardson in here. For you, what was your impressions about the address?
Good evening to our cherished audience, viewers, and all that. Yeah, I think my brother has hit the nail right on the head. But the one observation I've made that I want to bring to people's attention is that one thing, the president started his speech by talking about change. But the address did not indeed dwell on change for the way forward. Okay, he still dwelt on the status quo. All the things he said relates to what actually pertains at the moment. Okay, all the framework that exists is what he's kind of going to operate on. And if he wanted to change, then he should have said that this is what exists, and these are the changes I want to bring, to, as it were, transform things for the way forward. That's the first thing. A déjà vu, yes, déjà vu seems to be cut and paste. Most of the things that have been said last year were repeated. But more than that, yes, he needed to bring some humor to bear, some light spots to bear on some of the issues. But I think that was overdone, right? The State of the Nation address is a serious issue. It's an account of the work in progress. And what it's supposed to do is not to tell us what the government intends to do. Not only that, but it is primarily intended to tell us the facts as they exist on the ground, on the key areas of governmental activity and key spheres of governmental responsibility. So on basic needs, food, clothing, water, transport, health, schools, or education, what is the situation? Certain strategic considerations, defense, and the threats from outside, our participation in global politics and in promotion of world peace. What is the situation on the ground and what can we do about it? Our infrastructure, roads, bridges, etc., etc. What is the situation and how do we intend? What are the problems and how do we intend to meet those challenges? And on the economy, what are the problems? As he has indicated, well, he claimed that the economy is good, but we all do know that the situation, on the ground, as summarized by my colleague, is not good. I have made a observation that when the president admitted some time ago last year that we are facing a liquidity crisis. And I have made this observation as an economist, and I believe strongly, and I'll emphasize this, that if present trends continue, the economy may crash by June. And by what I mean is that the government will not be able to meet its financial obligations. And that would be a meltdown. The liquidity crisis could lead to a solvency crisis because we have begun to go into our reserves to shore up the exchange rate.
Because I need more information on that, so hold on to that. But I'll go to Dr. Sikanko, and you mentioned two things, and I just want to clarify. Now, the president said our situation was temporary, and also I think towards the end of his speech, he was calling for help, even though maybe not very specific, but he was calling for help that, we need to do it together. And he called the other side of the house, look, follow me to go and see if I start, cutting the sword to start the school. So would you give him credit for trying to call for help?
Well, yeah, I would give the president some help for his demeanor and even from a communicative point of view, his attitude. One of the greatest strengths, someone once said that the greatest threat to the MPP is John Mahama. One of his greatest strengths is that he's able to connect with the people. Look at the words he used. Sometimes you get the feeling that he's a common man, that he's just one of us. And you get the feeling that, he was able to connect, in terms of his simplicity, in terms of the way he conducted himself. And so you are able to connect. And any politician who has that skill has a great advantage because people want leaders who understand them. They want leaders who understand their problems. When they go into the voting booth, because they believe if you understand their problems, then they can trust you to solve their problems because you feel their pain. And that's why in certain countries, the president then wins a poll that says, which president are you most likely to win to drink beer with? That president almost every time wins the elections because people want people they can connect with. So, I mean, I give the president credit for that. And
let me throw in mentioning names. I'm wearing his shoe, and I met that man, and he did this. It was very personal. I mean, and I don't think I've heard it in any State of the Nation address,
It was. And in a way, I think that Mahama sounds Obama-esque in certain ways, in his ability to use certain communicative strategies, certain communicative tools, and to tell anecdotes, to tell stories, and in order to relate or to exemplify a point, and actually to be able to personalize certain issues. Domestication, he's able to personalize it by saying that I met with this person, I'm wearing a Ghana-made shoe, and it's a good advertisement for the local industry, local content, import substitution, and all that. So he's able to do that, to demonstrate and to connect. And when you talked about the last part of his speech, in terms of the fact that he was trying to galvanize the country, I think that is also pretty new to an extent. We haven't seen a lot of that in our speeches. And when I say he sounds Obama-esque in a way, that is what I mean. If you ask me, what was one of the biggest quotes from the 9th, I would say, and because I was looking at this from a qualitative point of view, I'm sure you do the economics of it. But if you ask me what was one of the biggest quotes of the 9th, I would say when he said, "Your love of this country matters. Your service to this country makes a difference." And then he goes on to say that, Mr. Speaker, we must all rise to the challenge of transforming Ghana, because if not us, then who? He talks about patriotism, he talks about responsibility, he talks about a belief in a Ghanaian identity and a belief in Ghanaian culture. These are very important things. And because if you ask me, Nana, when you do the comparative analysis, I think that the greatest contribution that some of the countries that we aspire and want to be like, the greatest contribution that the United States, for instance, has made is not in its economy, it's not in its military, it is its culture. That culture of social mobility, the thought that no matter what your name is, no matter where you come from, what school you belong, what clique you went to, you can be able to own a decent house and a plush car in the society. That mentality, that culture, that fabric, which is ingrained in their culture, so they are proud of their country. And that is why they are ready to go and die in Iraq for their country. I think it's important because it lies at the heart of our economic transformation. I mean, if you are proud of your country, if you are proud of the products, of course you are going to buy made in Ghana goods. You are not going to want to buy a foreign good in order to serve the economies of other countries. And the more we buy our local content, the more we develop our culture. If you have a good work ethic, you are less likely to be corrupt. You are less likely to cheat your neighbor. And so some of these soft politics things, President Mahama does very well. And I think it's very important for us to define our national identity. What does it mean to be Ghanaian? And to re-engineer the social and cultural fabric, because there's a grand tear and a basic break in it. And the best contribution that we can make to our country is through the lives that we live. And that is what he spoke to at the last part of it. So I'll give him credit for that.
Good. There's an insert on the economy. So I want us to look at the economy, and then I'll come back and then we'll speak to the economy.
Despite the short-term challenges we face, our economic fundamentals remain sound. Mr. Speaker, Joshua Water. Mr. Speaker, despite the short-term challenges we face, our economic fundamentals remain sound, and our mid-term prospects are bright. Growth continues to be robust at an estimated 7.4% last year, and we still retain our vision to accelerate and maintain GDP growth at above 8% going forward. The non-oil sector of our economy grew by 5.81% over the same period. The agricultural sector in particular, which faced a few challenges the previous year, due principally to some difficulties in the cocoa sector, still posted a significant growth of 3.41%. Mr. Speaker, the fact that we are transiting into a services economy is obvious from the strong growth that continues to be posted by the services sector. This sector in 2010 overtook agriculture as the largest contributor to GDP. And last year, it posted an impressive growth of 9.1%. The industry sector, which had witnessed sluggish growth over the last couple of years, also posted a remarkable increase of 9.2%. Mr. Speaker, since 2007, the world has been faced with a financial crisis and Ghana has not remained immune to the pressures created by this crisis.
Encourage, urgency.
Hello, sorry about that. Trying to alert my guest talking behind the scenes. Look, the growth in the economy, there's nothing to complain about. I mean, 7%, 8%. I mean, even China and America will be proud to get that sort of percentages. But as an economist, what are your concerns?
Yes, before I touch on that, if I may make very quick and brief comments about, how he connected us, my colleague Frank has attempted to. Yes, we need to be light, to speak lightly on some issues. The president needs to connect and all that. I appreciate it. But much as we appreciate that, we must not encourage an overindulgence in needless jokes, and comedy. The State of the Nation address is a very serious exercise. And I think that the number of times the president used this joke,
Tria business.
And which other one? Order and
planted too much tensions, and then we need to lighten up.
No, we need to lighten up, but it must not be overdone. And also about connecting the people. People are rational. Voters are rational individuals. We have the podcast market in which they make choices, and the people, Ghanaians, are intelligent. They may not have the necessary information or all the information to make their decisions. But they are over the years, they have demonstrated their capacity, to see through deception, and I mean honesty, because the president may be saying one thing but doing another thing. And George Bush was found out. He said, "Read my lips, I will not increase taxes." He came in and then increased taxes, and was voted out. So issues about national identity and common identity and shared interests, these are not new themes. From times of our champion. One nation, one people, one destiny, and all those kind of things. What is important is what exists on the ground. What do we see the president doing? Who are the members of his cabinet? Who are closer to him and all that? And issues of national identity and shared interests and all that raises fundamental issues, please, about how the country of Ghana was amalgamated and how our politics have been played. I think that in addition to the politics of patronage, what is made strongly is the politics of ethnicity, and that has accounted greatly to the politics of instability. I don't know the anatomy of coups and political instability in Ghana. I wish that we can find a more refreshing path to resolving these issues. But as I've said, slogans are not solutions, and Ghanaians are capable of seeing through deceptions, and what is a candid, commitment to a national good. About the economy. Growth. We've been talking about growth for so much. What is growth? When we talk of growth, GDP growth, it's all about growth in output. How much of goods and services the country is producing. In addition to that, it also deals with the quality of goods and services, or the variety and the quality of goods and services we produce. If there is increase in the the quantity of goods and services, as well as the variety of goods and services produced, then we should expect growth or increases in income, and therefore increases in the goods and amount of goods and services that people consume. But more so, in addition to increases in output and income, we must see increases in employment, because when the amount of goods being produced in the economy is growing, then of course it means that firms are employing more people, are able to employ more people. The more people who find jobs, earn income, they are able to increase their claims over goods and services. That is, effective demand increases, and with effective demand, there's increase in consumption or whatever. Firms are able to invest more, and that cycle is generated. The GDP growth rate, in itself, is not a sufficient measure to talk about, standard of living. We know that. So yes, if the economy is growing by whatever percent, we should expect increase in output. If there's not increases in employment, if there are no increases in employment, then there are fundamental dislocations, that we must address. That's the first point I want to make. But we see that there has been a fall in growth, not only in the overall economy, which means that the amount of resources that was being used, say in 2008, has been reduced, and this is the result of the policy of the fiscal consolidation, which is basically disinflationary, IMF-style disinflationary stabilization program, which emphasizes reductions in government expenditure and or increase in taxes. And we have seen all of that at play. So there has been what we call disabsorption. The amount of resources being consumed or absorbed in the economy has been reduced. And it induces recession. Okay? So basically, for the ordinary person to understand, it means there has been some lost output. And to recover that lost output may take us several years. The economists, we must be allowed to tell the nation, or research to tell the nation, how many years it will take us to recover that lost output. So that is one point that we should. But sectorally, we saw the loss in output in certain sectors like agri. How it affects food production. What is happening to food production? What is happening to food security? What is happening to food sufficiency? Food security in terms of both economic access, and physical access. What is happening to food sufficiency? What is happening to cocoa production? The president made reference to fall in cocoa prices as well as prices of some of our main exports. But what we also know is that there has been fall or decline in cocoa output, the result of the discontinuation of the policy of free cocoa spray. After all, the government claims or claims of most of the profits that should have accrued to cocoa farmers as a result of that fixed prices. The government does not pay the full extent of the world market prices to cocoa farmers for various economic reasons, including stabilization of the economy. Okay, so the government can recompense cocoa farmers by spraying cocoa farms free. From the colonial government through Nkrumah, we saw what happened to cocoa output when the government did not
did
the spray. So that is an area that we should address. And if the economy is going by whatever percentage, 6%, 2%, or whatever, Ghana, we need something like 10% of what. If the economy is growing by whatever percent, but Ghanaians are not participating in that growth, then it will not in any way affect the standard of living or the quality of life in Ghana.
So with the repatriation of profits which the president assured investors, are you in favor for or not? But then again, what can we do? They brought their money, they need to take it away.
Oh, I think this relates to the exchange rate.
No. Apart from the exchange rate, he was saying that if you come from abroad to invest your money here, you are allowed to repatriate your profit.
Yes. That has to do with the exchange rate, issue.
Yeah.
And the desire to attract direct foreign, investment. Okay. You cannot in any way, attract foreign investors by, imposing controls on the repatriation of their profits, dividends, and capital. All right. So that has to do with a framework which allows the mobility of capital. It's an issue to be addressed, but on the other hand, the government can create a win-win situation whereby foreigners will feel encouraged, will be incentivized to invest their monies in the economy. Okay? And in addition to that, the fundamental issue is that can the country rely on foreign investors to develop? The historical and contemporary evidence shows that no country has developed on the back of foreign investors alone. Although foreign investment or capital
are economists telling the politicians this, that we can't rely on foreign investors, because that, at the moment, that is our aim, that we are investing on them so that we become a better nation.
But foreign investors, another question is, in what sectors, have foreign investments gone, into what sectors? They have gone into mainly the extractive sector, mining, how many foreign investors have gone into manufacturing? except the Levantines, I mean the Lebanese and Syrians, who have very long traditions of business in this country. Okay, and they also repatriate their profit. So yes, foreign investment is key. If foreign investment is going into manufacturing and certain strategic sectors, subsectors of manufacturing, especially exports, that is good for the economy. But in addition to foreign investors or foreign capital, we also need domestic capital. Let me tell you this.
Hold on.
In addition to every $100 that went of American capital that went to China, okay, Chinese capitalists or entrepreneurs contributed at least $30.
So
and in Malaysia, yes, at least. And in Malaysia, Malaysian entrepreneurs have also contributed immensely to investments, and they have created a model of political economy that encourages
so whatever
a
profit
win-win
comes,
situation.
they can also,
of course,
they can
if
also
the foreign
share.
investors are repatriating their dividends and all that, especially the multinationals, we know the implications for the balance of payments of our
I'll
country.
come back.
And this is a fundamental issue.
Thank you.
Not now.
One of the things which the state of the nation is supposed to address, it says, let me read this thing. It says a disturbing feature of past addresses concern the presentation format. Section 34(2) of the 1992 Constitution indicates clear and specific issue areas that the state of the nation address is supposed to report on. These include the realization of basic human rights,
yes,
a healthy economy, the right to work, the right to good health care, and the right to education. The president is obliged to report on these steps taken to ensure the realization of these policy objectives. Now, we want to find out if that was achieved. When I come back, I'll go to Dr. Sikenku. Stay tuned. Hello, we're discussing the State of the Nation address, obviously delivered in Parliament by the President today. But just a couple of comments that you posted on Facebook. Log on to Facebook, look for Joy News and post your comment and I'll read it. I read a couple and then I go to Dr. Jennifer Usu-Yeboah said, he has said, let us watch how he has said it. Let us watch and see how he implements them. Osei Godfred says, he's in alcohol. Clear affirmation of the biblical allusion, words and not deeds. But by their fruit ye shall know them. That's what he's saying. Jin Asempa Kwame, please, we should mind our speech, how we tell our president to think twice. Sana Felix says, what is a manifesto? And then Jabba Adam Gladima says, I think the president should at least be serious with his speech. Free SHS is not possible, so we should forget it. It can only be possible in 2016. So why should you mention that? We need a break, Mahama. Lamte Chinwe says, free SHS 2015, to entice Ghanaians to vote for him in 2016, but the economy of the country. I skipped a word there. And but there's one here. Yeah. Jin Asempa Kwame said, I am so impressed. I love you, Mr. President. And then citizen Atuguba Collins, he really touched on the core issues representing the true state of the nation. In summary, I say appreciable. Sana Felix says, Tria. I'll come back and read some more. Keep posting your comment. But Doctor, you wanted to finish your comment. Yeah.
About foreign direct investment.
Yeah.
It is meant to fill the gap, the capital gap, and the skill and managerial, gap. So foreign capital comes in, we have capital.
When you say to fill the gap,
there's a gap. In other words, developing countries, have been observed to lack the capital and the technology, to develop. In addition to the capital and technology, okay, they also lack the managerial, skills, and other skills to manage their firm. So they come in with all these, to fill whatever gaps exist between what we have and what we need to develop. But two observations: all foreign direct investment, not only in Ghana but developing countries in Africa and Latin America, go into the extractive sectors and the utility areas. Why? Because these areas, have far lesser, uncertainties, and they can at a faster rate recover their investment than in manufacturing, which requires longer gestation period.
Long manpower.
Yes. 2, France was not developed by the Germans. All countries which are now developed, the point is, all countries which are now developed were developed by the indigenous people. France was developed by the French, Germany by the Germans, the Dutch by the, Netherlands by the Dutch, Austria by the Austrians. So it is a joke. Even South Korea, Taiwan,
developed by the indigenous.
We must have faith in the Ghanaian and Ghanaian capital where they
did
not exist. We can create them. The government must play a lead role for the private so that the private sector can follow.
Let me get Echi here. Echi, the purpose for delivering the average citizen. I mean, did we get that import?
The purpose of the delivery, right.
Supposed to get a job, your health, the state of the economy. Did we?
You said human rights, the economy, the health of the nation, and so on and so forth. Well, I mean, just to take off from where he started, I do agree with him that no nation has developed a bread basket or in the back of another person. And I mean, it is important for us to believe in our local entrepreneurs. And I mean, he's the economist, but I mean, I do know it's when I'm feeling the pinch in my pocket because I pay more when I take the roadshow, I pay more when I go to the market. So I feel it in my pocket. And I think that is what the ordinary Ghanaian is concerned. People buy, electricity credits and it lasts shorter than it was before. Okay, so they are feeling the pinch, even in terms of increases in fuel and food prices and so on and so forth. So I think that, to allude to his point, the government has to take a lead, he said, in terms of social protection, in terms of intervening in the economy, growing small-scale businesses, and in terms of offering a certain safety net, for Ghanaian businesses, so that whatever revenue we get, stay in there.
But this statement had a lot of safety nets, calling on Minister for Trade to help poultry farmers, put 50 million CDs in pharmaceuticals. So it was calling for local business and local support.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that in terms of whether it addressed the rights, the social safety and social protection, it is the right direction to go. And I think that it is a good start. But then as to whether they're going to walk the talk, of course, they still have 2 years to finish. But to address your question as to the purpose of the speech, whether it was able to achieve or address areas in which a state of the nation is supposed to address. In terms of rights, I think that he did. But Nana, generally, from a communication point, one thing, although I think he's a good communicator, I think that at the end of the day, a lot of things that he said were very vague and were kind of open-ended. At some point, you felt as if you were listening to a historical lesson, talking about Achimota School and so on and so forth, And, I don't know if he was buying time or what. When you compare it back to the 2013 State of the Nation address, you will find similar statements over there. Some of it looks like
verbatim.
Yeah, historic, and all some word. You look at the word, and so on. And some of them was
challenges on education is access to access.
Exactly. In fact, when I counted, some of the most popular words were challenge, access. Challenge was used 23 times this year. Very high. Last year it was used 13 times. Access 29 times this year. This year 22 times. No quality. Equity and equitable 10 times this year, just 2 last year. So it gives you an impression. I was trying to look at the general theme of the general theme of the presentation. Does it present a certain vision, a certain drive? What is the driving theme and what is the underlying thesis, the underlying narrative, the grand story that he's trying to tell, which will re-engineer our social fabric? I didn't find it. So I think that he was vague, he was open-ended, a bit erratic at some point, and you felt as though he was just trying to achieve campaign promises at some point in time. I think that some of the policies that he proposed, there has to be some connection, and it has to be done in a certain context so that we know how it is going to improve our lives in a sustainable manner, not in a piecemeal manner. Okay, but if you ask me, in terms of human rights, I think he's reported something. He said they've initiated the initiated the Affirmative Action Bill, the Interstate Succession Bill, Property Rights of Spouses, Domestic Workers Regulation, and so on and so forth. LEAP, the livelihood employment stuff. And so they've initiated it. He's telling us what they are doing, okay? But we have to know, over time, we have to hold them accountable. And in some of the numbers that he gave, we have to cross-check some of them. And in terms of comparing it to what happened last year, so human rights, he's done that.
Major thing before I come, I think it's been on the table this evening or all across the news was introduction of free SHS in 2015, 2016. And obviously, the NPP saying, look, hold on, in one breath you said that even Kenya collapsed because of free HHS. And so between, a year now, how prepared are we to even bring it back on the table? And I say, a few months ago, schools in Wa couldn't go because they had no chalks and dusters and everything. So, are we now, fully settled to even bring this on the table for discussion? What do you say?
Well, Nana, I'm not a politician. Yeah. If I wanted to do politics, I would have done it. So whatever I say is my own assessment of it. When you look at education from 2013, the subtitle of it was quality education. If you look at the subtitle this year, it was just plain education. And when you look at this year, I told you the word access was one of the most popular words. I don't know if they are shifting from the quality education that they were emphasizing during the campaigns to just access, which makes it understandable as to why they will be interested in providing free SHS so that a lot more people will be able to have access to that kind of education. To me, I don't see the difference. You say education, one person says free education, another says progressive introduction of free education. Nana, I think it is a play of words. I think it's rhetoric, I think it's semantics, I think it means the same thing, and they're just trying to be politicians and play on the words. It's probably the same thing. What's the meaning of progressive? According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and I don't have it here, it's the gradual introduction of something on a gradual level. I don't think that if the NPP came to power, they would have implemented free education on the first day, or everybody would have had free education in the first year, or anything like that. We all know that it was going to take time. So I think, to me, that was a major turning point, a major turning point in the speech, and something that we really need to
quickly
investigate.
Should he have come and said, listen, I've thought about it, and I think it's the right way. Maybe I was wrong then, we should go for it. Or politically it's dangerous.
Both politically and even from a communicative point of view, I think it would have been a great trick. You know what? People admire honesty. And they respect it a lot. People don't like comparing, but when you look at Barack Obama, there were so many things that he came to admit and said, no, I was wrong, you were right. You know what, you had a better idea than I did. And I think that your idea is going to move our nation forward. I want you to come on board and help us to do this. That's what he did with Robert Gates, who was from the opposition party. That's what he did with Hillary Clinton, who was his
staunch opposition. Let me take a break here. When I come back, then I give you the floor.
Another break.
Yes, another break. Another break. When I come back, I give you the floor. Stay tuned. Welcome and State of the Nation, and from a non-political side of the fence, if I may say. But tomorrow we have Afenyo King and Murtala Mohammed here, and they will talk about the state of the nation from their political lenses. So tomorrow you need to stay tuned. But Dr. Richardson, summarize, rush through your thing, because I know you've got a lot of stuff to say.
Okay, yes, about, first let's take this human rights issue, which the President should have reported on. Issues like this gender bill and secession and where they were very much, I think, framed or influenced by the thoughts of the Ministry of Gender and those kind of. But you have fundamental issues such as the citizens' right, during arrest, for example.
But could he have talked about everything? Wouldn't it be too?
No, he couldn't. But these are what have
2 hours.
These are what have been stipulated in the Constitution that he must report on, and. The rights of the citizen when he's being arrested, vis-a-vis the responsibilities of the police. Okay, for example, or the law. What is happening to our judiciary? How do people perceive the judiciary? How are these affecting the rights?
Let me push you to the city.
Also, education. Yes, I'll come to education. He's also conflating and confusing a lot of issues in education. The issues relating to quality and access. We have fiscal access and we have financial access, and both of them, determine the quality of education. And you cannot, separate the two. And I think that what he said about the gradual or progressive implementation of free SHS, whether for day students first and whatever, is, I think, a tacit admission of the fact that the idea that was made the main platform of Nana Akufo-Addo was a good one, and he should have extended an arm of congratulation, recognition to Akufo-Addo, and if congratulated him that it's good that he revived this issue. Although this issue is not new, we can go back to 1979 when one Mrs. Bannerman introduced it, the 1979 elections. And it was one platform which they used that it was impossible, and they swayed the minds of so many people who voted, not for NPP, but either for NDC or other parties. So we need that politics of honesty, and a frank and candid admission of where we've gone wrong, and a frank and candid recognition of the views of the opposition, and extend an arms of cooperation to the opposition to come on board. And that's what will take the country forward. Now, about the city.
Summarize it, because I know it's very long.
About the city. Yeah. Yes. The city, or the exchange rate and the balance of payments is a fundamental issue in economic management. The crisis we are going through is not a temporary issue, as the president, put it. It's a fundamental, a long-term issue, problem that has plagued the economy for a long time, since Nkrumah's time. And I think that the framework within which we have managed our exchange rate and the city and the balance of payment is not appropriate for some time now, and we need to go back to the basics and the drawing board. The economic recovery program, which led to the introduction of, or the shift from a fixed exchange rate to a floating exchange rate, I think did not address some fundamental issues. Those who implemented them, Kwesi Botwe and others, were not economists, and they did that. They implemented the whole thing by doing what we call learning by doing. And so, if there is a crisis, for some time, we must go back to the basics and ask ourselves, what should we have done? After all, one of the basic issues, in macroeconomic management, is achievement of a stable exchange rate. Now, when you adopt a stable exchange rate, you have other issues, to choose from. Out of three, the government can only have control over two of those issues. We don't seem to have a proper idea about these things, and I think that we are moving from one crisis to another, and this is at the heart of not only short-term macroeconomic management, but it also determines what we can do in the medium term to long term.
I think we need to peel them, bring you back in so that we discuss further the economy and the city. But I'll give the last word to Echie with regards to NHIS or NHIA. I don't think we heard much about it, even though we had a lot about the chips compounds being developed.
Yeah, well, I mean, for a policy that lies at the heart of our healthcare system, I don't think a lot has been said about it, and it probably speaks to the current state that it's in. Enrollments haven't risen, out-of-pocket payments are still high, and even when you look at, it was not just NHIS. If you look at the whole healthcare sector, there were certain things that were in 2013 that were repeated verbatim. The chips, he said 1,600 by 2016. The same statement was, he said it in 2013. The same statement was there in 2014. He said they will commence work on 12 district hospitals. He repeated the same thing here. He just said it was ongoing. Construct UG hospital. So I just put 2013, 2014 together to just compare them. He said the same thing. Regional hospitals, 2013, he said regional hospitals will be built in Upper East, Upper West, and Eastern region. This year, he only talked about Upper West region. He didn't talk about Eastern region. He didn't talk about Upper West region. And he just talked, and then he went on to talk about new things, about the Tamale Teaching Hospital, the National Medical Equipment Replacement Program, which are new things. He didn't appraise or report on some of the things that happened in 2030. He completely ignored some of those things. And so and I think that's what Ghanaians want to know when they are assessing the state of the nation.
What happened last year,
what happened
so
last year and this year.
Exactly. No, just 2 minutes. Just 1 minute.
I really don't
only
have to,
1 minute.
Only 1 minute. They automatically cut me off.
Yes,
so let me sign
minute.
off, and then you keep talking.
No, only 1 minute.
So, folks, tomorrow you tune in, and then we'll look into the political angle of the same story. And as I said, tomorrow we're back to do it all over again. But
about health. We must remind ourselves that health is a basic need. It's a basic social service. Before the introduction of the ERP, health service, provision of health services or delivery of healthcare services was free. And so, if there's a crisis in the NHS is something you have to pay. It's an insurance kind of scheme. We have to go back to the basics. It was free before ERP was introduced.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, folks. Unfortunately, that's all time will allow us. Thanks for posting your comments on Facebook. And tomorrow, we'll be back to look at the political angle of the same story. Thanks for tuning in.